My father asked if the $2,000 he'd been sending was enough. I hadn't received a single cent. The dining room hadn't changed. Same heavy chairs, same polished oak table, same soft jazz, humming from the corner speaker like every holiday since I was 12. Mom had made her signature roasted squash. Dad carved the turkey with surgical precision like he was still in the operating room. For a moment, I almost convinced myself things were fine. Then, as he passed me the mashed potatoes, Dad looked up and smiled. "Is the $2,000 enough each month?" The fork slipped from my hand. I blinked. What money? A pause. Then everything went quiet. Even the jazz seemed to fade out. Dad's smile dropped. He looked at Mom. She didn't meet his eyes. I don't understand, I said slowly, my voice barely above a whisper. I haven't gotten anything. Leona. Dad's voice was sharp, but not angry yet. Not yet. She dabbed her lips with a napkin, then set it down. I thought it would be better used elsewhere. Better used? He repeated, louder now. You told me you'd handle the transfers. I did, she said simply. To who? His voice cracked. Because it wasn't to Aiko. Mom reached for her water, but her hand trembled slightly. Hana's program is more expensive. She needs it more. You know how hard it is to break into fashion. It's competitive, unforgiving, and... Aiko is what? Just supposed to survive on scraps while our other daughter walks through Rodeo Drive? Byron... He cut her off. No, I need to know. For how long? She sighed. Since August. He turned back to me. Aiko, you've had nothing. No transfers, no support at all. I shook my head. I asked once. Mom said there wasn't anything left after tuition. His shoulders fell. I thought you were okay. I've been working nights, I said. Tutoring, bar shifts, skipping meals. But sure, I'm fine. Mom's chair creaked as she stood. Don't do this here. It's Thanksgiving. Dad didn't move. He just looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time in a very long time. I need some air, I said, standing. The hallway felt too quiet, too familiar. I stepped outside, clutching my jacket, and tried to breathe. The fall semester blurred into long nights and longer days. I stacked my schedule until there wasn't a single blank square left on my calendar. Anatomy lab in the morning, tutoring in the afternoons, bar shifts that stretched past midnight. I told myself it was temporary, just until I caught up, just until rent cleared, just until I could breathe. Most days I skipped breakfast. Lunch was whatever I could grab between buildings, usually a protein bar and black coffee. Dinner was instant ramen or day-old pastries from the cafe near campus that tossed out unsold stock at closing. My shoes had started to separate at the soles. I stapled them shut on a Friday night shift at the bar. My body finally stopped pretending. I remember the moment clearly. Tray of drinks in hand, music pulsing, someone waving for service. Then heat. Then nothing. When I opened my eyes, it was sterile white above me. The slow beep of monitors, an IV in my arm. The ER nurse asked if I had anyone to call. I said no. Later, my manager told me he'd called my parents after the ambulance came. No answer, he said. Left messages. Figured they'd show. They didn't. 2 days later, Kenji, my lab partner, showed up uninvited. He'd heard through the grapevine, carried a plastic bag of groceries and a pan of baked ziti. I hadn't told him my address, but he found me anyway. You look like you're disappearing, he said, setting the food on the counter. I sat at the edge of my bed, legs folded, hoodie pulled tight. I'm fine, I said. He didn't argue. Just handed me a plate and sat across from me in silence. I took a bite. It was warm and real, and I had to stop myself from crying over a forkful of noodles. That night, I slept for 12 straight hours. The next morning, I checked my phone. 2 messages from Mom. The first, glad you're doing okay. Can you send Hana the name of that skincare brand you liked? The second, don't forget to eat. I deleted both. Later that week, I saw Hana post a video from a brunch spot in West Hollywood. Her face lit by filtered sunlight, captioned with, "No better way to start the day. Thanks, Mom." I stared at the screen for a long time before opening my banking app. My phone screen had a thin crack running across the lower corner, splitting faces and text just enough to distort the illusion. Still, I scrolled. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't not. Hannah had just posted a carousel from a rooftop lounge in West Hollywood. There were velvet chairs, gold-rimmed cocktails, the kind of sunlight that made everything look expensive. She was in a cream silk dress, tagged Dior, hair swept up in a way that probably cost more than my entire week's groceries. The caption read, "Mom always knows exactly what I need. Brunch life, Eich gifted." I locked my phone, set it face down on the floor, and leaned back against the mattress. The ceiling above my bed was flaking paint. The mini fridge hummed loudly in the corner. I hadn't bought fresh vegetables in 3 weeks. A month ago, I had emailed Mom asking if she could help cover the cost of a new anatomy atlas. Mine was falling apart, pages missing, water stained from an overturned cup during an overnight cram session. She replied the next day, "That's a luxury Ico. You'll have to make do." The same week, Hannah posted about her new Balenciaga boots. Thanks to my amazing mom for always supporting the dream. I could still hear her voice, sugary and effortless. I wasn't angry, not exactly. Just hollowed out, like whatever part of me had once thought to explain the imbalance had finally gone still. I wasn't asking to be spoiled. I just wanted to stop rationing Tylenol. I picked up my phone again. Hannah's latest story was a short clip. Her laughing, hair blowing as she leaned over a balcony with the city spread beneath her like a stage. There was jazz playing softly in the background. I watched it 3 times before muting the sound and opening the camera. The lighting in my room was too dim for anything to look good. Still, I took a picture. Cracked nails, calloused fingers, the same gray hoodie I'd worn for 4 days. No caption. I didn't post it. Instead, I pulled up my contacts and scrolled until I found her name. I hadn't called Hannah in months. Most of our exchanges were one-line texts, always initiated by me. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering before pressing the call button. Hannah picked up on the second ring. Her voice was light, breezy, just like I remembered. "Aiko, wow, you never call. Everything okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just wanted to check in. It's been a while." She laughed. "You miss me?" "Sure." My voice was thinner than I meant it to be. She started talking about a recent fashion shoot in Pasadena, the stylist, the almond milk shortage at her favorite cafe. I let her go on, pretending to listen while I counted the unopened bills on my desk. Eventually, I asked, "How do you manage it all financially? LA isn't cheap." "Oh," she said with a shrug I could hear through the phone. "Mom handles it. She wires me $3,500 every month. Sometimes more if I've got shoots or networking events." My mouth went dry. "That's great." "Yeah," she said, oblivious. "She just gets it, you know? She always says it's about investing in the dream. Anyway, how are classes?" I barely heard the rest of the conversation. I nodded and said, "Uh-huh," and "That sounds cool in all the right places." My face felt hot. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. When we hung up, I stared at my reflection in the window. I looked pale, smaller, like something had been peeled back. I opened a new tab and searched for flights. The cheapest seat had 2 layovers and a 6-hour delay, but it would get me to Chicago in time for Thanksgiving dinner. I clicked Book Now. Then I closed my laptop, slid the tray of bills aside, and started packing. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say when I got there, but I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. And I knew the table I'd be sitting at would never feel the same again. The meal was quiet, almost careful. Mom had made lentil soup and chicken salad. Nothing extravagant, but more than I'd had in weeks. I forced down 2 bites before setting my fork aside. Dad glanced up. "You've lost weight." I shrugged. "I guess." "You okay?" "Define okay," I said. He frowned. "What do you usually eat?" "Instant noodles, discounted sandwiches, leftovers from work if I'm lucky." He paused. "Is the 2,000 not covering enough?" I looked at him. He wasn't being sarcastic. He really didn't know. "There were no transfers, Dad. Not one." His fork clattered against the plate. He turned to Mom. "Leona." She kept her eyes on her bowl. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. "I've been sending it to Hannah," she said at last, her voice even. "She needs it more." Dad's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "She's in fashion, Byron," Mom continued. "It's expensive. She has events, people to meet. She has to maintain a certain image." I blinked. "And I don't need to eat?" Mom glanced at me like she was startled to hear my voice. "I'm not saying you don't need help," she said carefully. "I just thought, you're stronger. You've always managed. Hannah is more sensitive." Dad stood up slowly. "You told me you'd send it, every month, for Aiko. You let me believe she was fine." "She always is," Mom said, louder now. Dad looked at me again, this time with something that felt heavier than shock. It looked like guilt. I pushed my chair back. "I came here for answers. I didn't expect them to be so simple." Mom turned toward me, but I was already on my way down the hallway, her voice fading behind me as I reached my room and closed the door. Dad knocked that night. I didn't answer, but he opened the door anyway. Slowly, like he wasn't sure if he had the right to be there. "I couldn't sleep," he said. "I just keep going over it all. She told me she was sending it every month. I thought you were okay. I thought you were comfortable." I didn't say anything. He sat on the edge of my bed. "You remember when Hannah got her car?" I nodded. "I got, maybe next year?" He exhaled through his nose like the memory hurt more now. "I said we could only afford one vehicle at the time. She told me you didn't mind." "I did," I said simply. He nodded slowly. "I keep thinking back. This summer you wanted to do that medical camp. She said you changed your mind. Said you wanted to stay home and save money." "I cried for a week when she told me we couldn't afford it. Hannah went to Italy that summer." He looked away. I should have asked more questions. She made it easy not to. He was quiet for a long time. "Then she always said you were independent, that you didn't need as much, that you'd find a way." "She wasn't wrong," I said. "I did find a way. I just shouldn't have had to." His jaw tightened. "This isn't about strength, Aiko. It's about fairness, and I missed it, for too long." I could hear them arguing again downstairs. Mom's voice rose, sharp. Something about loyalty. His response, lower, angrier, cut through the walls. I closed my eyes. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. The next morning, I found Dad in his study, glasses low on his nose, scrolling through bank statements. He didn't hear me approach. "Aiko," he said when he noticed me. "I need you to know I didn't just believe your mother. I handed her access to—" "What?" "The trust," he said. "The one set up for you and Hannah. Split evenly. I thought it was locked until you turned 25, but apparently she's been diverting funds to a separate account in Hannah's name only." He rubbed his temples, his voice tight. 250,000 so far. I felt something shift inside me. Not shock exactly, just confirmation. "What now?" "I've already called the attorney. We're starting the process to reverse the transactions. It'll take time." I nodded. That was all I could do. Later that night, their voices rose again, this time sharper, messier. "You didn't even ask me," Dad shouted. "That money was for both our daughters." "She needs it more," Mom snapped. "I did what was best for her," he said. "Not for us. Not for Aiko." Hearing my name like that, loud, defended, not dismissed, sent something through me I didn't have words for. I stood at the top of the stairs, listening. "I trusted you," he said again. Quieter now. "And you stole from our own child." I turned away before I could hear her answer. I already knew what it would sound like. Hannah called 2 days later. Her voice was tight, clipped at the edges. "Mom told me I'm only getting 1,000 a month now. Is that true?" "Yeah," I said. "Dad's handling the finances now." She exhaled sharply. "I can't live on that. Rent, classes, materials." "I know." There was silence, like she was waiting for me to offer a solution. I didn't. "Do you really think this is fair?" she asked. "I think it's overdue." She hung up. That night, I caught Mom slipping money into an envelope. She didn't see me standing in the hallway, but I knew what it was for. Later, Dad did too. He didn't raise his voice. He just stood across from her in the kitchen and said, "I can't do this anymore." She stared at him, unblinking. I was trying to protect her. He didn't flinch. And who was protecting Aiko? "Aiko is fine," she said. "She's always been fine." He looked tired. "You keep saying that like it justifies everything." "I just wanted the best for Hana." He shook his head. "And what did Aiko get?" Mom didn't answer. The next morning, he called a lawyer. By the end of the week, he had filed for legal separation. The house felt different. Quieter. Like something had cracked and let in air that had never been allowed before. Mom moved through the days like she was underwater. She cooked. She folded laundry. She rearranged books that hadn't been touched in years. But she didn't talk to me. Not really. I stayed for 2 more nights. The silence between rooms stretched like something no one wanted to name. And when I packed my bag and zipped the last pocket shut, she stood in the doorway, arms crossed, like she couldn't decide if she was going to say something or not. She didn't. Back in Philadelphia, the days felt different. I dropped 2 of my shifts. The bar let me keep weekends. I kept tutoring because I liked the quiet clarity of explaining things. The rest of the time, I studied, slept, and ate food that didn't come from a packet. My grades climbed fast, not because I suddenly got smarter, but because I could finally breathe. I bought myself a pair of new sneakers. Not expensive, just intact. They felt like an upgrade I had to earn twice, once in work, once in worth. Hana texted more often. At first, it was out of habit. Then it turned into something else. She sent pictures of outfits she'd styled for clients at the boutique. "They're not designer, but I like them more," she wrote once. "They actually feel like mine." I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "I'm glad." One night, she called without warning. Her voice was quieter than usual. "I think I finally see it now." "See what?" "What it cost you. All of it." There was a pause long enough to feel honest. "I didn't want to believe it," she said, "because if I did, I'd have to admit Mom made things easier for me. And that meant she made things harder for you." I leaned back in my chair, staring up at the ceiling. "I don't need you to feel guilty," I said. "Just don't pretend it was fair." "I won't." That was all we said for a while. I heard the clink of glass on her end. Probably tea, not wine. Hana never liked alcohol. She hated the taste. I always thought that was funny. She cleared her throat. "Are you going home for the holidays?" "Not sure. Dad's going. I am too." I hesitated. "Maybe we could go together," she added. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. It's been a year since that dinner. I'm still in Philadelphia, still in school, but everything feels steadier now. I sleep, I eat, I study without watching the clock like it's a threat. My professors have noticed the difference. So have I. Hana is still in LA, but she's not the same girl who used to post every brunch. She works part-time at a boutique that promotes sustainable fashion. She designs pieces from leftover fabric and talks more about craftsmanship than couture. The pride in her voice is quieter, but real. Mom works at a home goods store now. She says it's temporary, but I don't ask for more. Our calls are brief, polite. There's distance neither of us knows how to cross. Dad, on the other hand, calls every week. Sometimes we talk about school, sometimes we don't. When he visits, he brings books and groceries and listens like time is no longer a luxury he has to ration. One evening, Hana called just as I was leaving the library. "Thinking about going home for the holidays," she said. "To see Mom." I didn't say anything. "Do you want to go together?" she asked. Not for her. Just to do it right this time. There was a long silence, but it didn't feel heavy. She just waited. I nodded before I even realized I was doing it. "Okay," I said. "Let's go." Christmas came with no grand gestures. Just an early flight, 2 carry-ons, and a quiet knock at the door. Hana and Dad went in first. I followed behind. Mom answered in a sweater I didn't recognize. Plain, slightly worn. Her hair had more gray than last year. She smiled faintly. It didn't reach all the way. We sat around the same table where it all broke. The food was simple: roasted vegetables, a store-bought pie, dry turkey Dad overcooked. No one brought up the past, but no one pretended it hadn't happened either. That, I think, was the win. We passed dishes. Hannah complimented the stuffing. Dad asked about my classes.